The main type of stretch that I think is probably considered the gold standard here for the type of stretching you should be doing in your warm-up is dynamic stretching. Now, essentially what dynamic stretching is, it's kind of using a controlled speed while moving a muscle through its entire range of motion, like we talked about, your range of motion. So, for example, like if I were to take my, this is your GH joint, isn't it? Your glenohumeral, kind of up in there. Or am I thinking something else? Yeah, it's your GH joint. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, around the shoulder, just the overall ball and socket around this area.
So my range of motion for this example would be about here. Now, this is probably not the greatest range of motion. See how, like, I try to keep my arm straight, and at a certain point it bends because I cannot get this. This is probably an instance of really tight lats, which I do also want to talk about how we can fix this, because I do have a lot of these issues that I'll be bringing up, but this would be my comfortable range of motion. Dynamic stretching is going to be moving within this range of motion, controlled, and making sure I'm warming up this area. So I'm going to be intentionally using all the muscles around that joint. So basically all the shoulder muscles here for myself. The main difference between dynamic stretching and what they call static stretching, which I want to talk about after this, is you don't hold dynamic stretches. So, for example, a lunge could be considered a dynamic stretch. Going into that lunge, that 90-90 position, coming up, we'd be working our hip flexors, our thigh muscles, and then coming back up, we'd be using our glutes, right? We're dynamically stretching all that muscle group. That's part of that movement. It's functional movement. This is why dynamic stretching is probably the best way to warm up, just because you are moving functionally and you are using a whole lot of different muscle groups that are going to help perform that movement. So
before we continue, I don't know if you wanted to address, I guess, like a common question that people will probably give any trainer or anybody who poses anything different than what's maybe been taught a couple decades ago, is as in regards to, like, this all sounds kind of complicated. Why can't I just stick to like a typical aerobic warm up, or just kind of like walking on the treadmill doing some static stretches?
Right. So the main thing is it's not an effective use of your time in how you can be warming up that body. But just doing a regular aerobic workout is just going to raise your heart rate. It's going to raise that blood pressure. You might even get a little bit of increased tissue quality, but you're not working the muscles that you need to be working to be able to maximally perform and get that optimal warm up. So it's ideally, if you can put an aerobic warm up and dynamic stretching together, I would say that's your ideal workout, because you are getting the best of everything. You are getting that increased cardiovascular response, as well as attending to the muscles that need to be warmed up for whatever it is that we're doing.
I think also another thing to mention is specificity. Yeah. Why not we save time doing something like in a dynamic warm up or some type of like muscle activation that does, just as you said, does the exact same thing, but we're actually also rehearsing the movement patterns which we're going to be doing. If you're just walking, then okay, an aerobic warm up may work. If in fact, even there might be some people might even say like you can still even get some dynamic mobility even for just walking. But I guess the conclusion on that is that's kind of an outdated model in regards to the aerobic warm up. I know we're going to touch on static stretching a little bit later and how that maybe conflicts with, I guess, newer methodologies of warming up.
Right. So yeah, dynamic stretching is important to, again, increase that range of motion. You are increasing that core temperature and activating that CNS, that central nervous system. And all of this is going to prepare your body for enhanced movement. And the cool thing about dynamic stretching and dynamic flexibility is it can be used as a warm-up, or if you don't have enough time, dynamic flexibility, dynamic stretching can be the workout itself. Like you can do a whole series of lunges and submaximal squats, all that stuff, because they are exercises. It's not stretching in the traditional sense, which is that static stretching. It's dynamic. It flows. It's movement based, which is going to prepare your body for more functional scenarios.